The orders were simple. Seize the German freighter by any means necessary. The Dutch commander shouted directions to lower the gangway and surrender the vessel as his Marines readied their guns. But on board, the German captain refused. He knew what was coming, so he gave his crew their mission: put her beneath the waves, destroy everything else. He knew it might cost their lives, but they weren't going to hand her over. Not to the Dutch, not to anyone. So they sent her to rot beneath the Caribbean sun. We came to Aruba for the usual reasons: sun, warm sand, a little rum, and a lot of beauty. We were guests of Embassy Suites by Hilton Aruba Resort, so we took that invitation to roam this one happy island. On a snorkeling trip near Malmok Beach, they took us to see a shipwreck. 60 feet down, the wreck of a German freighter stretched across the sea floor. Our guide mentioned it was scuttled in the Second World War, but no one really explained how a Nazi ship ended up off the coast of Paradise. So, we started digging. In the summer of 1939, the world was a powder keg. Germany had invaded Czechoslovakia. The British were rearming, and tensions were building with every passing week. That same summer, German merchant ships were still operating around the world, including the SS Antilla, a brand new cargo freighter out of Hamburg. In August, she docked in Galveston, Texas, where she loaded sulfur for a routine run back to Europe. That changed on August 25th when the Antilla received a radio message from Germany. That message contained a code word, Esberger, for her captain, Ferdinand Schmidt. It was a trigger. He opened sealed orders that every German merchant ship carried. The orders told them to leave the main shipping lanes. A second message soon followed. Same code word. This time, it meant to change the ship's name and appearance, communicate only in code, and return to Germany as soon as possible. Something was happening, but her crew didn't know what. Antilla left Galveston and turned south, toward the neutral waters of Curaçao. On August 28th, she received a coded radio message that all German ships unable to reach a German harbor within 4 days should seek refuge in neutral ports. For months, the Antilla lingered in Caribbean waters, stuck in limbo. By then, the British and French were at war with Germany, and their navies controlled much of the Atlantic and patrolled the Caribbean. German merchant ships like Antilla couldn't sail home, and they couldn't risk open sea, so they drifted between neutral ports. In October, she discharged her cargo of sulfur in Aruba, Dutch territory. Still peaceful, still out of the war, but not for long. For months, the Antilla made the waters off Aruba her home. On April 9th, Germany invaded Denmark and Norway. A few days later, Dutch authorities confined the Antilla's crew to their ship. No shore leave, no more leeway. The crew tried to escape, slipping out toward open sea, but just beyond the 3-mile zone, warships waited. With no safe harbor and no path home, Antilla was forced to return and remained anchored off Aruba. On May 10, 1940, the powder keg finally ignited. Hitler invaded the Netherlands, and with it, every Dutch colony, including Aruba, was suddenly at war. That same morning, Dutch authorities received urgent orders: seize all German ships immediately, arrest their crews. The Antilla was now officially enemy property, sitting exposed in Dutch waters. But the crew didn't wait to be taken. At 3 a.m., a detachment of 22 Dutch Marines arrived by boat and surrounded the ship. The order was shouted across the water: lower the gangway, surrender the vessel. But Captain Schmidt didn't answer. He already had his orders. As the Dutch Marines prepared to board, the crew of the Antilla was already dismantling her from within. One crewman locked himself inside the engine room, opened the seacocks to start flooding her, and climbed out through the funnel. Others moved around the corridors, setting fires in multiple compartments. At 5 a.m., Dutch Marines finally boarded the ship. The entire German crew was removed to shore under guard. Behind them, the freighter was already taking on water. Flames swept through her superstructure. Compartments below were flooding fast. With the crew removed, the Netherlands Coast Guard vessel HM Aruba fired 2 rounds from her deck gun to seal her fate. But the Antilla was doomed before the Dutch ever stepped on board. After the scuttling, the crew of the Antilla was held briefly on Aruba, then transferred to internment camps in Jamaica, where they remained for the rest of the war. Though set on fire and flooded, parts of the Antilla remained visible above water for some time. a rusted reminder of the day war first reached Aruba's shores. Over the decades, the sea took over. The Antilla now rests in 60 feet of water, warped, rusting, picked apart by time and tide. Today, it's one of Aruba's most popular dive sites. But most people floating above it have no idea what they're looking at. No real sense of why this ship matters. Just a massive sunken boat resting in shallow water, caught between history and memory. The Antilla was never a warship. She never fired a shot. But in global war, even pawns are players in the game. What was once a symbol of war is now one of Aruba's most celebrated destinations. A wartime relic beneath 60 feet of tropical water. War leaves marks in strange places. Even here, just beyond the beach chairs and frozen cocktails, in paradise.